Is that form standard form or vertex form? That's vertex form. Do you remember the difference? Here's the difference. Y equals ax squared plus bx plus c is standard form. Okay, we talked about that one. Then we moved on to vertex form, which is y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. Okay, so if you look at the setup, this is vertex form. It's got the parentheses. There's no bx term, right? There's none of this in it. So that's how you can kind of tell this is vertex form, which means you should be able to look at this equation and tell me the vertex. You don't have to like plug things in to find the vertex like you do with standard form. Anyone want to take a shot at it? What's your vertex here? Positive 4 and positive 1. So it's always opposite of what it looks like inside and the same as what it looks like outside of the parentheses. So this is a positive 4 and a positive 1, and it goes right there in your graph. So if I'm going to pick other points for x, what's going to go here? That's going to be a 3. We're going to get smaller, and then we're going to get bigger down here. Okay, so we'll plug those values in. Okay, before we do that, oh yes, these are the parent. So we're gonna take that 4, 1, and we're gonna shift it 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So this one, that's your parent function that comes off of 0, 0. Now we're shifting that over to here to get our new function. Yeah, please. So from this setup, okay, we shifted 4, 1. Essentially that means if my vertex is 4, 1, I shifted 4 where? 4 to the right and 1 up, okay? So that's the transformation that's happening, partially. There's going to be another piece to it. Does anyone see the other piece to it already?
It's going to be upside down.
Why is it going to be upside down?
Because there's a negative.
Because there's a negative out in front. So that negative is going to flip it. So it's going to look something like this, but we're going to pick points so that we can get actual points to plot there. All right, so let's do that. If I plug in, again, how many of these 4 numbers do we need to plug in? You only need to plug 2 in. Don't plug like the 3 and the 5 because those are going to get you the same y value. Either plug the 2 above or the 2 below. Which ones do you want to do? I would do the 2 above. They're smaller numbers. So it's y equals the opposite. Your x value is 2, so that's going here. 2 minus 4 squared plus 1. Maybe you want to try plugging that into your calculator just to make sure you're plugging it in correctly. Your calculator should do that for you without having to even think about it. But if you're not, if you want to think about it, here we go. 2 minus 4 is negative 2. Negative 2 squared is a positive 4. So this is the opposite of 4 plus 1. What is that? What's negative 4 plus 1?
Negative 3.
Negative 3. So that goes with the 2, right? 2 negative 3 will be a point. If you want to plot that, 2, 1, 2, 3, that would be that point right there. Then plug in the 3. Y equals the opposite of 3 minus 4 squared plus 1. 3 minus 4 is negative 1. Negative 1 squared is 1, but we're taking the opposite of that. Negative 1 plus 1 is 0. So you're going to plot 3, 0. 1, 2, 3, 0. What's happening? Oh, no, we're fine. Sorry, I had my vertex mixed up. I'm going to draw the axis of symmetry in through my vertex so I can show you how I would reflect this. You can either reflect it by just flipping these, right? This 0 is also going to go here. This negative 3 is also going to go there, and then plot those points. But you can also just reflect it by looking at where you're at. You're 1 to the left. Go 1 to the right of your axis of symmetry. The green one, you're 2 to the left, go 2 to the right of the axis of symmetry. So this is what your graph should look like. Are there any questions on how I found any of the pieces to do that? You guys are a lively bunch today. It's good. Okay, question for you. Let's go down to number 12. Can anyone tell me the vertex of this graph? A +3 and -2. So 3, -2. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So that's your vertex. I like to put the axis of symmetry in right away. Just helps you see where you're going to flip things. So there's your starting point. Can anyone tell me what this is going to do?
Divided by 2.
Multiply by -1/2, divide by -2. Sure. What's it going to do to the look of my graph? It's going to flip it, okay? But now instead of it being a 1, which so far they've all been 1s out in front, now we have a number that's different than 1 out in front, okay? So when this is a negative, it is going to flip it, but when the number changes, then it does this, okay? So here's my parent function. If you get a fraction, it's called a stretch. I don't like the word. It's a vertical stretch. It's basically saying like, draw it this way, okay? So here's your parent. When it's a fraction between 0 and 1, it goes this way. When it's a number bigger than that, it's called a compression, and it goes this way. So it kind of like, if you push down on those top things, it's going to spread it wider, okay? So this one is, and I'll write all that down here, but this one is going to go narrower than the parent function was. Does that make sense? So take a look at this. Tell me what numbers we'll put here and here. 2 and 1, so 3, 2, 1. And then what are you going to put down here? 4 and 5. So you just want to go in order. Don't skip any numbers. They get too big then if you do it that way. All right, so if you're going to plug this in, I'm going to plug in -1/2 times, my x value. So I'm going to start with 2 minus 3 squared minus 2. Again, maybe you want to try to plug that into your calculator. How about let's do that. Everybody plug this into your calculator right now. Get your calculator out. Do you all have a calculator now? I emailed your parents to say, ask your kid if they have a calculator. That was a while ago. And if you're not sure how to plug this into your calculator, let me know. I will gladly show you. But this should be, when you plug it in, what should this be? -2.5? Yes? Did you get -2.5?
Yeah.
That's what it should be. So you plug that into your calculator and you get a -2.5. Okay, now plug it in like this. A -1/2. Plug in the 1 instead. And remember, you can just arrow up and just change that one number. Don't write the whole thing in again. And you get what? -4. Did anybody else get -4? Yeah? We'll go with it. I didn't even plug it in, so hopefully that's right. 2.5 and 4. Sorry, -2.5, -4. Okay, so if you plot this to -2.5, that's here. So you can just reflect that to the other side. And then 1, -4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so it looks like this. Never even worked those out. So what they're looking for as far as transformations, we'll do more of that right here, just so you can see like what it all means. But basically this is gonna flip because of the negative. The 1/2. Oh, I totally told you the wrong thing. I told you 1/2 is gonna stretch it, huh? I lied. 1/2 compresses it. You can't wait till we do the, sure, leave your phone. The 1/2 is going to push it wide. The bigger numbers are going to compress or stretch it. My bad. So this is going to flip. It's going to compress. I don't need you to say compress. If you just say widen, I'm great with that. If you say narrow instead of stretch, I'm great with that. And then it is going to go 3 to the right and 2 down. Okay? Okay, all that to say, here are the details. Are you ready? This is everything you should know at this point about how these graphs work. You with me?
Yes.
This is all the important pieces, okay? The first one, let me get my fun colors out. Hold on. Okay. You with me? You gonna write this down? Okay, let's do this. The first one, the H, this letter right here. Can anyone tell me which way that shifts? Is it horizontal or vertical? Is that going to shift you like this or like this, Sydney? No. Horizontal. The one that's inside the parentheses is associated with your X value. Okay, so your X changing is this way. So H is the horizontal shift. Okay, here's where it gets tricky. If it's a plus right here, so X plus 7, what direction, left or right, does that shift when it's a plus? We would normally think, feels like a trick question. Think of it like this, right? Okay, here's your coordinate plane, like on that last problem. If this number is a plus, so if this number is a plus, we would normally think you go which way? We would normally think you go right. You're actually going left. It's opposite of what you think. So plus goes left, minus goes right. Okay? So for the horizontal shift, just remember these are opposites of what you would expect. Okay, the K, this value, is your vertical shift. Is it going up or is it going down? If it's plus out here, is that going up or down? That's going up. The minus is going down. Okay. If your A value, this number out in front, if A is negative, then your function is what? Reflected, flipped, however you want to write that. You can write reflected, you can write flipped. They're the same thing. Across the x-axis. So it is flipped over this line, right? If it was up here, it's getting flipped down there. So flipped across the x-axis. All right, so now here's the piece that we've just started talking about today. If your A value, the absolute value of it, so positive or negative, if the absolute value of that is greater than 1, so if that number out in front, this A, is a 3, for instance, or a 7, or a 2, anything greater than 1, that is going to be what's called a vertical stretch, okay, which makes it a narrow graph. Okay, whereas if your A value is a fraction between 0 and 1, positive or negative, okay, that's called a vertical compression. And that is going to widen your graph. Okay, so the fraction is going to make it fatten. The bigger numbers are going to make it go more narrow, which I think I said backwards the first time, and I'm really sorry about that. Questions on that? Okay, that's everything for vertex form that you will need to know. Let's see if we can apply it. Okay, so starting with this as our parent function, we're going to write an equation to represent that. Khalees, what?
What does the first line say? Like it's like
Horizontal?
if a negative, if it is
Oh,
negative.
reflected or flipped. You can write either one. Oh my goodness, you guys. Is there a party out there or something? Leave your phone. Okay, so here's the setup. You have this parent function, okay? If this is what they're telling us to do, 2 units to the right, what does that do to your parent function? So come up here. If you're going to go to the right, it's going to be a negative for your h, right? So y equals, there is no a value. It told us nothing about flipping. It told us nothing about compressing or stretching, any of that. So you don't need to worry about that. 2 to the right is going to minus 2, okay? It's opposite when it's inside. And then you square that. Is anything going to come out here? Did it tell us to go up or down? No. So you put nothing there. So your equation is just x minus 2 squared. Okay, that was left and right. This one is saying up and down. If you're going to go 5 units up, is that going to be inside the parentheses or outside the parentheses? Outside the parentheses. So it was y equals x squared. Okay, nothing needs to go with that x right now. So we don't have to put parentheses in because it's not going to shift left or right. But if it's going to shift 5 units up, what comes behind x squared? Plus 5. Good job. Okay, so now let's put those together. 3 units left, 4 units down. So now there's 2 pieces. Y equals, you have your x squared, and then there will be something behind it. If it's going 3 units left,
Plus
3 to the left feels negative, right? But we do opposite of what we expect inside. So plus 3 would be 3 left. What's 4 units down going to do? Minus 4 outside of your parentheses. So that would be your equation. Okay? Okay, you do 16. 7 units right, 4 units up. See what you get. 7 units to the right, 4 units up. All right, what'd you put? Y equals x minus 7 squared would be 7 to the right. And then 4 units up is plus 4. Got it? Okay. These last 4 get a little bit fancier now. So what does it mean to reflect over the x-axis? What is that going to do? It's going to flip. What does that makes what negative? Makes what negative? What comes, it's the a value, right? It's what comes in front of the parentheses. So if this is down 3 units, is that inside or outside of parentheses? If it's going down, inside parentheses, outside parentheses, outside parentheses. Do you need parentheses on this problem? You don't, right? So you're going to go y equals, and then it's a negative. You could say x minus 0 squared. That's just not the simplest form, right? X minus 0 is x. So there's no need to put the x minus 0 in there. It's just x squared minus 3 would be down 3 units. Okay? Okay, so talk to your neighbor and do number 18. What's that going to look like?
If it was if it was a negative and then a number, would you put?
So like negative 1/2 and then your parentheses.
And then what if there was no
then it would just be x squared behind it.
So it'd be parentheses x parentheses square.
You don't even need to put the parentheses around the x. You could do, say it was like a 1/5 out in front. You go 1/5 x squared.
Oh, because it's not enough.
Because you're just squaring the x, right? So you don't have to put the parentheses there. If it was square the whole thing, then you'd put parentheses around the whole thing, but you don't need it. All right, here's how I'm going to write this one for you. Okay, hear me. If you struggle with this concept, because this is tricky, right? You just have to wrap your brain around a lot of pieces. If you struggle with this, my best advice for you is start the problem by writing that down. Your just standard vertex form of an equation. I always say standard vertex form. This is vertex form, but you're like generic vertex form, okay? That is this. Now think about each piece of it. What is the A gonna do? What is the H gonna do? What is the K gonna do for all of this? So the first part is reflected over the x-axis. So what did you do? The A is negative. If you want to write a -1 in there, it's not wrong, but you don't need a -1. But that's essentially what it is. It's a -1 that's out in front, because if there's nothing there, A is 1, okay? I'm just going to write a negative because you don't need the 1. So a negative does this part, okay? Then it says translated 5 units right. Is that going to be your H or your K? H is your left and right. K is your up and down, okay? So this is going to be X, 5 units to the right. Is it going to be plus or minus? Minus. Opposite of what you would expect it to be. So X minus 5 squared, okay? And then the last part, 2 units down. That's going to be this part, minus 2. This is your whole equation. Does that make sense? So take the vertex form and just drop in the 3 pieces that they're giving you. Okay. These last 2, take that stretch and compress into effect. Okay. If it says this is vertically compressed by a factor of 1/3, do you know what that means?
It's like -1/3.
It just means A is 1/3. That's all it means. Just plug in 1/3 as your A value. So if this is your setup, yeah, that's real loud. Okay, so if we plug this in, A is 1/3. X minus H. This says it's going up 8 units. Where is it moving left and right?
Nowhere.
It's not. So it's essentially X minus 0, which is just X squared. You don't need parentheses around your X. If you want to put them there, it's fine, but you don't need them. So just X squared. Up 8 units means what? Plus 8 at the end. So this is your equation. Okay? Okay, so do number 20. Talk to your neighbor. See what you get. And then I'll hear from you in just a minute. All right. Here it is. Last thing. Vertically stretched by a factor of 2 means what? Means A is 2. Okay. Reflected over the x-axis means what? What is negative? A is negative. So put a negative in front of that 2 that you just found. Okay? When it reflects, your A value becomes negative. 4 units left. Is that inside or outside parentheses? This is inside the parentheses. Okay, so it's going to be y equals A. Is this plus or minus if you're going left? This is plus, opposite of what you would expect. Left is usually minus. This is plus because it's inside. Don't forget the squared. Lots of people forget the squared. What comes behind that? Nothing. You're done. This is it. Okay?